As each season or episode comes and goes throughout Destiny, the meta constantly is changing. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering some of the best exotics that you as a solo player or a team player can be using this episode in episode Revenant. In no particular order, let's start off with number 1 here. We have the Grand Overture. Now this is definitely one of the best exotic heavy weapons that you can be using this season, since it is probably the best weapon that you can use in the Vespers Host dungeon. The Grand Overture is up there as the total highest damage that a heavy weapon can get in the game. It's got really good ammo economy, and one little trick that you can do that I'm sure a lot of players know about is that you can shoot something and load 20 missiles into the gun, and then rally to a flag or, pick up a heavy ammo brick and you can get those 20 shots back, meaning you literally have more ammo than you started with. The Grand Overture has been around for plenty of seasons now, and it's always been a very stable weapon to use, and it's especially being hyped up this season as being one of the best weapons that you can use in the Vespers Host dungeon. Moving over into weapon number 2, I have chosen the Anarchy. Now this weapon is definitely on this list purely because of this season's artifact mod, which allows grenade launchers to weaken enemies. Now this is especially good on any boss fight, because you can stick the boss with the Anarchy, it's going to deal very good tick damage, and it's also going to, weaken the boss. One of the most fun and very effective combinations that I've been using this season is on the Titan subclass with both the Lost Signal and the Anarchy. If you've ever got some sort of mini boss or a boss, if you shoot the boss with both your Lost Signal and your Anarchy, both of these weapons are going to deal decent tick damage, and it's going to charge both of your Transcendence bars, leading you to a Transcendence very quick, which means lots of more Consecration slams. This build is extremely fun, and I definitely recommend you give the Anarchy a go with the Lost Signal if you haven't done it already. Moving over into weapon number 3, still on this list to this day, is the Sunshot. This is by far one of the best exotic primary weapons to use in the game, and as we all know, exotic primaries are very useful in using with ammo scavenger mods. On your helmet, if you throw on a heavy ammo scout or a special ammo scout, these mods work better from using exotic primary weapons, and the Sunshot is by far one of the best weapons to use here. It deals so much damage, it has explosive rounds, enemies blow up once you kill them with the Sunshot. The Sunshot is amazing, and you should definitely be using it if you ever need an exotic primary weapon. There isn't too much more to say here, the Sunshot's been around for the longest time. Now very similar to this, in number 4 we have the Trinity Ghoul, and this goes for the exact same reasons. The Trinity Ghoul is an amazing exotic primary weapon to use with some massive AoE damage available for clearing out plenty of ads. The same thing goes here, being an exotic primary weapon, it works extremely well with ammo scav mods, so if you're ever in a fire team, and you're using the Sunshot or the Trinity Ghoul and you've got ammo scavs in your mods, your teammates are going to be absolutely thanking you because you will be spawning plenty of ammo bricks around the map for your teammates. Now the Trinity Ghoul is by far one of my favorite guns to use. Just the splash AoE chain lightning that goes around just shreds any enemies, and it is extremely fun to use. And wrapping this holy trinity up here with exotic primary weapons, in number 5 we have the Graviton Lance. Now again, this goes for all the same reasons. It's a great solid exotic primary rifle, and I've chosen this one as it is Void, and this one works extremely well with any Void build, especially on the Hunter with, any Gyro Falcons builds. Having volatile rounds on the Graviton Lance just shreds rooms of enemies, and it is extremely fun to use. So with this holy trinity, you've got the Sunshot if you like solar builds, Trinity Ghoul if you're going for an arc build, and then you've got the Graviton Lance if you're going for a Void build. All three of these weapons are amazing and probably the 3 best primary exotic weapons to use if you need to use an exotic primary weapon. Moving over here into weapon number 6, this is definitely an exotic that every single player needs in their loadout, and that is the Ergos Sun with the Arc Conductor exotic perk. Now unfortunately for me, this one took me quite a lot of grinding to eventually get the Arc Conductor Ergos Sun, so hopefully you've already got it, or you get some very lucky RNG and you get it extremely quick. However, in my opinion, this is the best Ergos Sun to have in your loadout, as the Arc Conductor perk works very similar to the Risk Runner. All you do is use a heavy attack and it spawns an arc shield around you, which will absorb arc damage, but the best thing about this is that it will chain lightning to every enemy around you, and pretty much one-shot any red bar in almost every activity in the game. As for frames for this one, Wave Frame or Caster Frame is your best option, but if you can't get lucky enough with that RNG, pretty much any frame will do, but like I said, Wave Frame and Caster Frame are your 2 best options here. The one you're seeing on the screen that I have is Wave Frame. It's very useful and it is very effective. Now, if you also get the Catalyst for it and you run Transcendence, it makes it extremely useful, as every Transcendence grenade kill will refund ammo, making this one of the best builds in the entire game. I've actually got a video on my channel here with a Stasis and an Ergos Sun build. I'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to give that build a go. Moving on to weapon number 7, I have chosen the Choir of One. And yes, still after the nerfs, this is still one of the best exotics in the entire game to be using. Especially as a solo player, the Choir of One is a very special exotic. So if you're a solo player and you're still struggling with Encore, I definitely recommend you, knuckle down and really try and get this exotic. Even with the slight ammo reserves nerf, the Choir of One still hits like an absolute truck. If you pair this with destabilizing rounds as well, it can be very effective for clearing out adds. And when you aim down sight, you've got the longer range shot that, where you can serve ammo and kill smaller enemies. And of course, if you hit fire, it deals massive damage for, your mini bosses or your big yellow enemies. It's still very effective in a DPS rotation, when you pair it with bait and switch, cascade point, whatever it is. The Choir of One has some insane burst damage when you do hip fire it. Overall, the Choir of One is a very solid pick, and if you haven't got it, I seriously recommend trying to get it. Moving on here into weapon number 8, we've got the Kostov. Very similar to the Holy Trinity of, the triple primary weapons, the Kostov still falls in a great exotic primary weapon rifle to use. With every 7th bullet ricocheting around the map killing more adds, this ricochet actually does some incredible damage, and anywhere where there's a lot of enemies, the Kostov will shred them in seconds. Pairing with the Eyes Up Guardian, when you pick up orbs, these ricochet rounds deal more damage. The Kostov is a very solid weapon. And of course, being kinetic, it will charge both of your Transcendence bars. So, the Kostov is a very solid option, and it's up there as one of the best exotic primary weapons in the game. Moving on to weapon number 9, I have chosen the Wishender purely because of its Grandmaster capabilities. This is definitely one of the best weapons to use in a Grandmaster Nightfall if there is ever any anti-barrier champions. With its incredible range, you can sit from very far back and just poke the enemies down. Whether it takes you 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it will poke them down. And of course, it has intrinsic anti-barrier, making it a very decent weapon for anti-barrier champions. This weapon also has the capability of piercing through enemies and hitting multiple enemies at once, which, you won't really find yourself trying to do, but it will just actively happen and you deal extra damage to more enemies. Not to mention, its intrinsic trait Queen's Wrath will, pierce enemy shields, no matter what it is. If it's a Void or an Arc shield, the Wishender will just pierce straight through it and pretty much just break it with one fully charged shot, making it still one of the best weapons for a Grandmaster Nightfall. Now, very similar to the Wishender, the next weapon is the Outbreak Perfected, another very solid Grandmaster Nightfall weapon to use. Now this season, with the artifact mod Unstoppable Pulse Rifles, it allows us to stun unstoppable champions with the Outbreak Perfected. Now if you do have 3 fireteam members with the Outbreak Perfected on, and all 3 of you are shooting one champion, these Sieva bots are going to do an extreme amount of damage, and you can see that when their champion gets absolutely shredded. Again, very similar to the Wishender, you can just sit back at a very safe, comfortable range and just chug down the Grandmaster Nightfall. There's no need to rush, you can take it slow and just shred enemies from afar. And even outside of Grandmaster Nightfalls, the Outbreak Perfected is still up there as one of the highest weapon dealing damage primary weapons in the game. So, you can pull this out whenever you run out of ammo and you'll know you still do a decent amount of damage. And finally, moving on to the last weapon on this list, we have the Whisper of the Worm, one of the best exotic sniper rifles in the game to use. Now, I believe the Whisper of the Worm is the total highest damage weapon that you can use in the heavy exotic slot. This will do the most damage out of every weapon if, you take advantage of surge mods, reserves mods, all that. The Whisper of the Worm will be the total highest damage out of all of these, making it one weapon that every Guardian should definitely have. If you still haven't got this weapon, you can go and get it from the Whisper of the Worm exotic mission, and I definitely recommend you do that as soon as you possibly can. One thing that I want to remind everyone is this weapon does have field prep, so for some reason, if you aren't crouching with the Whisper of the Worm, you should definitely be doing it, and it is one thing that people do definitely forget about. But overall, the Whisper of the Worm is a very solid sniper rifle, and you should definitely get it. But anyway, Guardians, that will wrap the list up there. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, comment down below, and let me know what your favorite exotic is this season in episode Revenant. But again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.